What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we're going to be going over the 4-2-3-1 wide instructions. So it's not the 4-2-3-1 narrow, which is what I know a lot of people would like to use, but it's actually the 4-2-3-1 wide formation. This is what I use during Foot Champions, this is what I use during a lot of division rivals, and it helped me go on a big win streak to help me actually try to figure out what I liked and didn't like in a formation. So after doing that for a while, again, it was helpful just to kind of figure out what I really liked and didn't like about the formation, and what I didn't like and what I did like and did not like about other formations. So on the screen is obviously not the 4-2-3-1 wide. This is just what I start with, so I can get people on chem and switch players to other formations or other positions on the field. So going over the instructions, and what's going to show up first is the tactics. I'm not going to really talk about tactics that much because that's more about what you guys like. That's what what you guys prefer. Not saying that certain instructions can't reflect what you would want in a team, but tactics are definitely going to influence your game play, your style of play a lot more than instructions ever can or ever will, and that's what I think, at least. So I'm not really going to be talking about tactics that much. If there is a certain formation that does, have that kind of does better with certain tactics, that I'll mention it. But otherwise, I won't mention it at all because, again, it's something that you guys need to figure out for yourselves. So going over the 4-2-3-1 instructions. So starting off with the defense, of course, center backs, we don't really touch it, but left and right backs, we have on stay back while attacking. And I mentioned before that attacking fullbacks are pretty nice to have this year. And, I'm not saying that, in this case, it's no different. In the 4-2-3-1 wide, it's no different. But I have them on stay back because we already have a left and right mid. We don't need to kind of junk up that area. Plus, if you could also send people on runs, on manual runs, right? If you look at a player and if you press LB, or I would assume L1 on PlayStation, they will just start running forward. So you can manually send people on runs. So, if there's a lot of space that you want your left or right back to, fill, you can just look at them, press L1 or LB, and then they'll start making a run. So you can adjust that as to what you like, right? So personally, I would just have them on stay back while attacking. So then if you do see space, you can just send them on a run. And otherwise, you don't want to be messing around and jugging up that spot on the left or right mid area. And again, that's going to be for both the left back and the right back. For the defensive mids, I have them both on stay back while attacking. And it's pretty simple. One, for just defensive stability, right? I don't want to be caught on the counter. But also the fact that if I had them on balanced, I would notice that they would be pushing up more than I would like. So, for example, Conte, he's not really much of an attacking player. He's obviously better defensively. He can't really shoot that well. His passing isn't bad, his dribbling's not bad, but again, he's going to be better defensively than he ever could attacking-wise. So I want him to be staying back. And again, if he was on balance, what I noticed he would be pushing up a little bit more. He'd be near the top of the box. And again, I don't really need him to be there. There's actually two reasons why that's bad. One, again, I don't really need him to be there because he's not good at attacking. But then two, I would also be caught on the counter. So again, I would just have him on stay back while attacking, just then those two things wouldn't happen. Again, both for both defensive mids. And again, if you do have one defensive mid who's a little bit better at attacking, you can just look at him and then tell him to make a run forward by pressing LB or L1. So, I would always just have him on stay back while attacking. And then if you do want him to fill space, you can tell them to fill that space by pressing LB or L1. Then for the left and right mids, and this one is going to be a little bit more focused on your opponent and what your formation or what your opponent does in the your opponent's formation. So I typically have them on stay wide initially because one, I've noticed that you come up against narrow formations pretty often. People are still using the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. People are still using 4-2-3-1 narrow. So narrow formations are still being used, and I would say more often than wide formations as well. So, maybe like 60% of the time, having them on stay wide is really nice because it provides that width. And that's actually why I prefer the 4-2-3-1 wide over the 4-2-3-1 narrow, because it provides that width. You have people who are going to be near the touchline, right, near out of bounds, where people who use narrow formations, they're not going to really be able to touch those people. And if they do, it's either going to be dragging a center mid away from their center mid spot to where, there's going to be someone you could pass to in the middle, or they're going to be using their left and right backs to come and charge you, to which you could probably play a ball over the top to your striker, or you could pass it back and just send your left and right mids on a run. So it's usually going to be, you know, opening up space for you either way. Now, if they have a wide formation, again, sometimes stay wide still works. It just depends. But what I would normally do then is have them on cut inside. Now, the reason why, you know, if it's a wide formation, why I wouldn't switch to a 4-2-3-1 narrow is because, and this might be a little bit hard to explain, but I've noticed that left and right mids on the 4-2-3-1 wide, they will be cutting inside more than the left and right mids in the 4-2-3-1 narrow would be cutting, or would be going out wide, if that makes sense. So, you know, when you are in the 4-2-3-1 narrow formation, your left and right mids, or your left and right center attacking mids, you know, they can go out wide, but they're not going to be going out wide as often as your left and right mids in this formation would be going inside. So you do have a little bit more balance, I guess. That's a better way to explain it. There's more balance for width and being narrow in this formation than there is being having width and being narrow in the 4-2-3-1 narrow. So, you know, again, with this formation, there's just more balance to that, which is personally what I would prefer. So, again, if you do come up against a narrow formation and you do have to switch from, you know, staying out wide, if there's people marking those left and right mids, then I would have them on cut inside. And usually, or, you know, 40% of the time, 35% of the time when you do have to do that, that'll work. So keep that in mind. You know, if stay wide doesn't work, you probably will have to make halftime adjustments, which is something that I had to do on a somewhat regular basis as well in this formation. And then finally, for the striker and the center attacking mid, for the striker, have them on stay central, and that's it. And that's pretty self-explanatory, right? We already have left and right mids who are both already on stay wide. So we don't need the striker to be going out wide. We want him to stay central, right? That's pretty just self-explanatory in my opinion. Then for the center attacking mid, there's actually two things I need to talk about. One is actually pretty particular and exact. So one is the instructions I have him on stay forward, just because then the striker isn't isolated, so then I can have a little bit of, you know, 1-2 passing with the striker. But the other thing that is a little bit more particular is that I've found that center attacking mids or players with medium work rates really work well in the center attacking position. That's what I found. And the reason for that is because if they have medium work rates, you know, obviously they're not going to be running around that much, right? They're going to be sitting in that center attacking spot. They're going to be in that central pocket that you want him to be in, right? I had Firmino in that center attacking mid spot, and he has high work rates, and he'd be running out wide, and he'd be clogging up space on the left mid, right mid spot, and there would be literally no one in the central area. I mean, yeah, Ben Yedder would be there, but he'd be marked by the center backs, right? There would be no one to kind of provide space in the middle for. So that's why it's really important, in my opinion, to have a player with medium work rates in that central center attacking mid area, so then they actually stick to their position. And as you can see, we have him on stick to position, and I did that for Firmino. It's not like I had him on free roam. He was on stick to position, and he would still be getting out wide. So again, in my opinion, I think it is a little bit better to have medium work rate, so they actually still, you know, they stay in that central attacking mid area in that space. You know, it's not necessarily a deal breaker by any means if they do have high attacking work rates. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but if you have to choose between someone with high medium work rates, high work rates, high low work rates versus someone with medium or medium low, personally, I would go with someone with medium or medium low work rates. So that's probably going to be it for this video, guys. If you do have any other questions over the 4-2-3-1 wide formation, just let me know. I'll try to answer them for you guys. But like I said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.